Welcome back to the You Can Too podcast. On today's show, we have Sean Oulashin on the show. Sean is a filmmaker, cartist, digital creator, social media marketer, filmmaker. He's so many different things. But Sean, for those who may not be aware of who you are, can you give us a brief overview?
Yeah, what's up? I'm Sean. I don't know. I guess the quickest way to sum me up is I make videos on the internet. As of recently, I've been trying to make a bunch of videos in the self-development space and help as many people as possible because I'm really passionate about helping people unlock their most highest potential self and helping spread a little bit of digital mindfulness and resilience through each video.
Yeah, it's definitely needed in the world of overstimulation at this point in time. You've been through a lot of I feel like it's like chapters almost, the way that I like to see it, through different exploring your interests and just passions that you've went down. What inspired you to get into this space to begin with?
Yeah, I've always kind of been, very curious about things. It started with close-up magic. You mentioned I was a cartist, and I still am. Cardistry, yeah. For those of you who may not know, is like juggling with a deck of playing cards. It's like skateboarding for your hands is kind of how I describe it to people.
That's a really good explanation.
Yeah. So my dad got me into, close-up magic when I was 8 years old, and he's the one that helped me set up a camera for the first time and start a YouTube channel when I was 10. And I've just always been obsessed with sharing things that I like on the internet, and magic and cardistry still is one of those things. So yeah, I would say I got into this whole mindfulness journey at the end of 2020. I had experienced growing pages in cardistry and magic, and I was like, okay, how can I challenge myself to build another page that has nothing to do with cards? I really wanted to see if I could live up to the title of content creator or digital marketer. So I was like, okay, how can I do this? Let's challenge myself. So I chose a fresh new platform that I hadn't really touched yet, which at the time was TikTok. And I decided on the niche of self-development and motivation because I had always kind of been the one, in my friend groups growing up to kind of just be the optimist, to be really motivational. I would hope to, a handful of my friends, all two of my friends. And I decided to start a TikTok that was all about getting back to your resolution because I was at the end of 2020 and it was going into 2021. I'm big on New Year's resolutions. So I made an account called Resolution Reminder. And the idea was to just post short videos every single day that were literally just me talking to the camera being like, hey, remember about the gym or the diet or whatever. And I made 14 videos at the end of December 2020. And I was like, okay, there weren't anything, crazy editing wise. It was like a clip from my camera, just like talking, and that was it. So I had 14 of these videos banked, and I started this new account and posted twice a day for 2 weeks, or I guess for a week. And go figure, it worked. I had a couple videos go viral off the bat, and I was like, all right, well, here we are. And then I kept making videos about, how to motivate yourself, how to be more confident, how to get more things done. And it was purely an experiment, this whole TikTok thing. I was like, how can I, understand the algorithm? I had seen friends of mine go change their life on TikTok. And I was like, well, I can, they're shooting on iPhones. I have a background in photography and filmmaking. How come I can't, change my life in a year? So I did, that was the whole motivation was how can I do the influencer thing in air quotes? And, after about 3.5, 4 months of this everyday posting, this kind of shallow, what's the most umbrella statement I can say about motivation, I started realizing that I was impacting a lot of people every single day. And then I also started realizing that I was kind of feeling a little bit different. In the past, growing up, I've struggled with anxiety and depression, and probably still struggle with it today. And by writing these videos and scripting these videos out, I started realizing that I was kind of forcing myself to reconcile with these emotions that I otherwise wouldn't really touch. And it was that moment at about 4 months or so that I started treating it less like an experiment and more like a thing that I really need as a person. So, I still wanted to understand the algorithm and I still wanted to post every single day, but I really wanted to start putting a little bit more heart into my videos rather than just doing, what's trendy or what's the most trendy audio, how can I say the most general thing to hit the most people. So I started doing these iPhone vlogs that were literally just me kind of recording throughout my day. A lot of this came from, not having time to sit down and batch record, but it also came from how do I be more authentic to my audience, and how do I put a little bit more soul into these videos? So I started recording my day and started doing voiceover stuff, which previously was just kind of talking heads, talking to the camera.
Yeah.
And I would wrap in a little life lesson at the end. So I would just go throughout my day. I've got a 9-to-5 job that I still go to every single day. All this content stuff is part-time. So I would record my day at work. I'd record my walk home. I'd record my, me making dinner. And I would wrap in a little thing that I learned. And, this was forcing me to be a little bit more mindful and a little bit more open-minded about how I kind of interpret my day. And yeah, I did that kind of for the rest of the year, and ended the year on TikTok, ended 2021 with about 800,000 followers. And I had changed my life, but I had done it in a way that was really, really fulfilling. I didn't like sell my soul to like brand deals. I did one, I think, throughout the whole year on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I really had a new vision and a new approach to how I think content should be not only made, but distributed, and how creators should interact. So, 2022, I kind of took a step back from posting every day because that was extremely exhausting. It's kind of funny. I mean, my whole account is and was about, mental health and mindfulness. And in the most ironic way, I was like having the worst mental health year of my life, because I was like, how do I, I was like so locked into this everyday thing. And I don't think I missed a day, but at the cost of like my own, sanity. So I took a little bit of a step back in 2022. I probably posted still like once or twice a week on TikTok. And then I had an Instagram that was associated, is associated with my TikTok. I made it when I made that new TikTok, and I was just like, I just got to have, multiple platforms. I didn't really think anything of it. And I probably posted on that Instagram maybe once a month, every month, for the duration of the everyday project on 2020, or on TikTok rather.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a side thought. Like I was more focused on TikTok. I hadn't seen any return, on Instagram. So I was like, doesn't really matter. I'll just kind of absentmindedly post whatever there when I can. And then in, now it's 2022. I absentmindedly threw up. I didn't, not vomit. I posted a video on that Instagram, and I again was like, whatever, I need to keep posting here. I woke up the next morning to 10,000 new followers and the video having 500,000 views. And I was like, that's crazy, because this Instagram account was sitting at 2,000 followers for a year and a half. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So this video kept growing. I quickly realized, okay, I need to capitalize on this. And I began reposting some of my older videos on that Instagram, because now it had this audience of people that was kind of expecting this, motivational self-development kind of thing. And then since November, this past November of 2022, I've been all in on Instagram, because the growth has been, for the most part, very rewarding and very fulfilling, just in terms of like building a community. So I've not missed a day of posting every single day on Instagram for almost 6 months now. I've got this bulletproof system of how I make the content and how I distribute it, and how I use data from the previous session of batch recording to inform the next session. So yeah, pretty much all in on Instagram right now. Obviously I'm still trying to diversify, because you can never trust one platform nowadays. But yeah, I suppose that's kind of the long and short of how I guess we're talking now.
Yeah, man. And you spoke on this when you were just speaking, like the energy that you post from, the kind of what the mission is for it, whether it's getting views or it's actually impacting other people. It's the reason you're on this podcast right now. It's the reason I reached out, is because I could feel that kind of energy that you were coming across. And it's the same kind of mission that I'm on, to enlighten people on a better way of living life, because I got stuck in that same kind of pattern as well. I want to take a little bit of a step back for early life for you, whether it was music, it was freelance work, it was YouTube, it was a lot of that period of time. Was the delusional optimism, or would you say that that's something that you subscribe to? Was that a part of the journey throughout, all the societal norms and expectations that were kind of placed on you to keep going?
That's an awesome question. I think I attribute a lot of my optimism and I guess proclivity for jumping around to things to being an only child. I was and still am an only child. I didn't grow up with siblings. I have a half brother. My dad remarried, but he and I, there's like a pretty big age disparity between he and I. So we didn't grow up together by any means. I was very much, I was having the only child experience in suburban America, and both of my parents still work in IT. So this is not an exaggeration. when I was growing up, there was no less than 13 working computers, or like semi-working computers. 'Cause my dad repairs computers, my mom programs stuff. So I've always just had this awareness of like electronics and the internet. There's a great photo that I should find somewhere of me like as a toddler, like sitting at my dad's computer, and I'm like trying to like touch the keyboard, but I'm so short.
Yeah.
So I've always just had this awareness of like there's this world that you can get into through this, like a screen and like a keyboard or something. Like that's always just been a huge part of my life. And I remember the internet pre-YouTube, which is a weird thing to say because I'm like part of the generation that shouldn't remember when YouTube was invented. But I remember before YouTube going on the internet and searching BMX clips, like the word clips after it on Google. And Google had this like really primitive like hosting site for like people to upload camera clips. And I was like, okay, cool. And then Instagram came, or I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. YouTube happened. And I like fully experienced the golden age of YouTube, like Smosh, Ryan Higa, all of like the classic YouTubers. Legends. And I was like, that's gotta be me. I have to do that. Like I love camera stuff and I love filming, and I've got friends that do goofy stuff. Like I want to be like that. I want to have 1 million followers, because a million was like a huge deal. Fred Fiddlehorn was like the first, million sub person. I was like, I gotta be maybe not like Fred, but I have to, I love that idea of like, having your own TV show basically is what it was. So
really, yeah,
kind of being raised by that generation of the internet, or like that era of like how humans experienced content, consumption. And it was all YouTube. And I realized quickly that you could learn anything from YouTube, and you could learn anything really fast because it's like a visual way, and it's very normal people teaching very extraordinary things. And that's how I got into magic and cardistry, and that's how I got into photography and filmmaking and music. I attribute a lot to my dad, but like I learned how to like produce music through YouTube and like that kind of thing. So I've always just used the internet as like an educational system, but also like a friend, like I've always been like so locked in to the internet. And then I think the cherry on top is my mom, really both my parents, but my mom mostly was like hyper aware of, I feel like she had this crazy foresight for the internet of like why it's bad. And of course, like as an adolescent teen, I was like, screw you, mom, I got to be on the internet all the time. Like this is the answer. But she was always like very concerned about, the amount of connection. Like I had to sneak make a Facebook behind my parents' back with like a fake name, because all my friends had a Facebook and I didn't. I didn't have a smartphone until I had to buy my own smartphone in college when I was 18 years old. No, I was 19. I had to, because my parents were like, you can't have a phone. So I had a flip phone. I was like the loser with like the dumb, like Virgin Mobile red flip phone for all of high school and a little bit of college. So it's this like crazy culmination of like technology is present throughout my entire life. I'm an only child, and my mom doesn't want me to do it. So I think that just kind of made this cocktail of like, I have to get on the internet and I have to do something with it. And I've always, I looked back at some footage from my high school years at my senior project. Everyone at the school that I went to had to do this like big grandiose presentation. I went to an art school. And basically you had to like use your art to like give this hour-long presentation on like what you've learned in life. And I didn't realize it I didn't remember until recently, but my presentation was digital mindfulness. And it was like the detriments of social media. And this is 2015 when I graduated high school. So it wasn't even half as bad as it is now. But I've sort of always just, been in this area of like, we have to find a way to like really mitigate our relationship with the internet, because there's very unsafe things that come from it and very negative effects on your life. And a lot of that is my mom talking in my head, but a lot of it is too, I think now I've grown into this person in this body of realization that, there's definitely a good way and a bad way to use it. I think I've kind of gotten off the question here. But I think this all, led into me being relentlessly optimistic about things, because, growing up with YouTube, I realized that anybody can do this. Like just, if you've got a camera and you're funny enough and you can tell a story well enough. I wasn't thinking this as an 8-year-old, but these are the ideas that now I look back and I'm like, wow, that's why, is because it was so inspiring to see these just regular people just make a living off of silly little videos or tutorial videos on the internet. And now, I feel like the internet is like the fullest obviously the fullest realization of that notion. But it's also gotten some crazy tentacles that are like hard to reconcile with. And now there's like weird pockets of the internet, but like that golden age of YouTube is I think honestly, that's why I do what I do, is because I'm trying to recapture that energy of like massive audience, massive impact, and then fun, jubilant personality.
Doing a great job at it. You're doing a great job at it, because that's so awesome to hear. And I like that you bring that up to begin with, because this a big part of this podcast, You Can Too podcast, is just I've seen the same. It was like, I've seen so many people doing the things that I wanted to do, but societal norms and what people were telling me it just wasn't possible. I know for you even stopped making YouTube videos at one point in time, because that was the kind of same thing for you. And then to get to where you are now, it must be a really fulfilling feeling to kind of get to a position where you've been in this space for a very long time. And the filmmaking is something I admire a whole lot of. I'm curious, throughout your time of YouTube, of just being in this space to begin with, starting from a really young age with your father, like what has creating in general and then also online taught you about yourself?
Yeah. Another great question. This whole, I think what my brain goes to immediately when you ask that question is the whole mental health side of things. In 2021, I hadn't really considered the effect that filmmaking and making, videos in general, whether it's like traditional filmmaking, like with an editor or with your iPhone, I didn't really consider the implications it might have on a creator, because I hadn't really gone all in on creating at any point in my life. I dabbled in the YouTube thing when I was growing up, but this whole TikTok project that I did in 2021 was very eye-opening in a number of ways. It's like crazy it's just such an unnatural thing. I made a video about this recently, but what I learned about myself is that it's like completely unnatural to have access to this thing called the internet, and then also have, hundreds of thousands of people, for a lot of people, for millions of people looking at them at all times, and weighing in on not only what this creator is doing, but also allowing themselves to be affected by it. So I think there was a number of moments in that 2021 year long of posting where I was like just completely overwhelmed by the weight of not only what I was doing, but how it's being received. Not that it was being received bad by any means, but just the sheer amount of eyeballs that was on me. And even being aware of this, it's so hard to reconcile with that, because you can be aware of that all you want, but until you experience it on a daily basis and you've locked yourself and committed yourself into this, subjecting yourself to this every single day. Yeah. And then on top of that, like being concerned about metrics and numbers, like that's such an unimaginable weight. And like, that's why YouTubers today have full corporations behind them that take care of that. Like doing it by yourself has its merits, but dude, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that it's still one of the most stressful things. Like it's very fulfilling, and it really answers the question that like my inner child has, which is like, what is it like to do this? I know what it's like now, and it's really cool and it's awesome. And it's awesome knowing that like I'm helping people, but dude, every day I'm like stressed, because I'm like, what's the next video? How can I continue making the same amount of impact and then improve on it? And then like, how do I not lose followers? Because I'm also trying to build a business, So yeah, it's taught me a lot about myself in that it forces you into this like really vulnerable state of allowing yourself to share, about your life, but also allowing yourself to be a punching bag for the internet. Again, not from my audience. I really am thankful that I haven't received any hate or negativity at all, because I think the nature of my content is like, how can you hate on this guy?
Right.
But, but just the punching bag in the sense that like, dude, you're going to be tossed around by this like insane ocean that like doesn't end and you can't see the bottom. It's sometimes really, really detrimental. And sometimes I have to take a break and I have to step back. That's why I'm so thankful that I've like figured out how to batch record and batch edit. Cause this week I haven't really edited anything. I've scheduled all my posts, so I don't really look at the internet. Because it hurt. It sucks sometimes. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of the answer of like what adult me has learned. But I think thinking back to, when I discovered YouTube. And like I wish I could remember the day more precisely, but I remember that feeling at least of like, oh my gosh, like if you have a camera, if you have your parents' point and shoot camera, you can make a silly little movie that makes people laugh. And the idea of going viral back in 2008 was like non-existent. I think viral video, if you said it, that's like a term that would make people laugh because they're like, oh, I get it, because it's like a disease, you know?
Yeah.
So when I was making videos and little skits, back when I was like a teenager, I was like doing it just for fun. And I was like, man, it's so cool. I think I still had that awareness though. I was like, it's so cool that I can, you know, make these things with my friends, but also it's like, man, this is just kind of what Hollywood is like. It's like Hollywood movies, again, this is like such a teen thought, but like Hollywood is just like, you know, getting together with your friends and a camera and a mic. Like that's all it is. Sure, I guess at a very broken down level, that's what Hollywood is. But I was more concerned about like traditional filmmaking. And I grew up thinking I was going to go to Hollywood. And I remember telling my mom, like, I'm going to make the next Iron Man movie. Like I want to make Marvel movies. So yeah, I mean, growing up with a camera and always making skits or tutorials on how to do magic, I was learning about myself in a way that was just like, I was learning about how much excitement I had to explore this world of the internet. And I couldn't have cared less about subscriber count or numbers or likes or whatever. I was just like, how cool is it that I can cut video together and make it look cool? Like that was completely it.
Yeah. It's crazy how our relationship can change so much over time. I find for me, like I've posted over 1,000 pieces of content in the last 2 years, which is insane to think about. Not to the level at your content. You put so much more. It's you're a filmmaker, truthfully, in that way, and it's profound to see. But like throughout that journey, it's insane to see how much you can change throughout it. The way that you can change the perception of what the mission is for what you're doing. And for you, it's like throughout that time you realized it was more of like I find like creating like a public journal almost. Like you're just like through your lessons that you learned. What do you feel like where you're at right now? Like what is the mission for? Is it to build a business and kind of go full time in it, or?
Yeah. So it changes every day, but at the moment it is to build a business. I guess a little bit of background. I work at this brand called Portland Gear. That's my full-time job. It's a clothing brand that is local and is a community focused apparel brand that just makes but we make t-shirts about the city of Portland. So we have the nicknames on it. We are involved in community events. We show up where Portlanders are. And it's really awesome. It's a brand that I discovered in 2015. I promise this is related. It's a brand that I discovered in 2015, just walking around Portland. They had a little tent at this open air market that I stumbled upon. And the logo, I wish I was wearing it, but the logo is the letter P with the shape of Oregon in it. And as soon as I saw that, I immediately like resonated with it. And I was like, I got to be a part of this, because I could tell it was building this culture. And this is 2014 or so. It was capitalizing and building on this culture that like I really wanted to be a part of and that I really identified with it. So this P logo became my Nike swoosh. And I always stay close to Marcus, who was there. He's the owner. He was the one I met at the tent. He hosted some events around town, and then I was there when they opened the shop. And then I went to school at Portland State, which everything in Portland's like all together. So I stayed close. And then the day that I graduated, I was hired at Portland Gear, just because I had developed a really good relationship with Marcus and, you know, the rest of the team that was there. The nature of Portland Gear is so like figure it out as you go and very nimble. It couldn't be farther from like a corporate experience, and it's awesome. And I love it. And he hired me to be the filmmaker, the film guy, for Portland Gear. And now it's turned into, I'm the lead creative there. Our team has grown quite a bit. We've moved offices last month, in Portland. So now I'm lead creative and I do photo, video, and graphic design. But through the 4 years that I've been there, I've fallen in love with business. And I didn't know that I loved business so much. I went to school for film, and through my whole life growing up, obviously making all these videos, I've just been film. So I didn't realize that business is like an integral part of everything. And I didn't even realize the thing that I was doing even before Portland Gear was building a business. And I had a business on my hands. But you know, through working at Portland Gear, this really nimble kind of everyone does everything at some point in the day brand, I had fallen in love with like the process of figuring out revenue and margins and profit and how to reinvest. Like, I didn't know that that was what I was interested in. I thought it was just cameras and lenses and editing, but really what that interest was like, how do you build a profitable business and how do you make a living off of something that you love? Marcus loves marketing and digital, digital design and digital marketing and all that and business. And he's making a living off it. Not only with Portland gear, he's got a number of different other things he's got his fingers in, and it's all business related. And I'm realizing as I did the, everyday TikTok thing, and then now on Instagram and the things I'm doing outside of Instagram based on the stuff I'm doing, with these videos, it's all business. So yeah. So now the mission is, help as many people as possible. I think someone described me as the modern day digital Mr. Rogers, which I'm completely fine with. Like, in fact, I love that title. I want my videos to be a safe place, and I want my videos to feel comforting, and I want my videos to feel informative and helpful. But I also want to build a business around digital mindfulness and resilience. Because if there's one thing I know from posting, every day on Instagram, is that everyone needs these videos. And I'm not saying that to like boost my ego. I'm saying that because everyone knows it, whether they like it or not, that the internet is like very harmful. And so, maybe some people don't know it, but as soon as they see my videos, I would hope they come to this realization of like, oh my gosh, we're not supposed to be doing all of this. Like, we're human beings, biological creatures. We're not supposed to be this connected. So I want to start providing products that help people be more mindful about their screen time and about their mental health and about their goals. Because I think it's so easy to just sit back and kind of go on autopilot through life and let the internet kind of guide you through, your day to day. But if you can flip that switch in your head, and if you can kind of realize that, if you can have sort of the realization that I had when I was a kid watching YouTube, like anyone can do anything that they want if they're funny enough, or if they're, talented or skilled enough. Everyone has that potential in them. And, that I don't want that to sound like a blanket statement, but it is kind of true. I want to make products and I want to make videos that help people reach the highest version of themselves. And I want to help them break the cycle of endless doom scrolling and just like being captivated by the internet and captivated by these apps that don't actually care about your feelings. So the way to do that is through, videos and keeping on the path of posting those. But also I've been working with a very close friend of mine now that I actually met through Portland Gear. We hired him 7 months ago now. We're building a course, and it's a course on digital mindfulness. And it is an amalgamation of everything I've learned from not only posting every day on an app, but my life of like being informed by my mom and being raised by the internet, of like how you can exist with not only the internet, but more specifically your phone, in a way that doesn't make you want to run into oncoming traffic. Like it's how we can start using our phones as a tool rather than our phones using us as a subordinate slave, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of, I guess, yeah, that's the mission now. Yeah.
It makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, we're in an era, I mean, I grew up with it, that like just my phone, all the kind of stuff. And I always say, a lot of people tell me I have an old soul for my age. And I've always wanted to grow up in a time where there was no phone. Like, we went outside to enjoy life, to experience it. Because we can get so caught in our phone. I'm pretty sure I seen a statistic not too long ago where I think it's people spend an average on 11 years on their phone throughout their lifetime.
Yeah.
Blew me away, because it's almost like we're living in virtual reality before it even comes out yet. Of course. It's like, how are we going to live that way? And you touched on a few things I do want to touch on, but the one thing that you made me think about was, you've done the filmmaking, and then now it's the graphic design. You have so many different skills that all incorporate into what you're doing today and what you're going to do moving forward. What skill do you wish you had developed earlier?
That's a funny question, because I developed these skills really early. Like, I've always been into like making stuff. I've always been like creative, I guess. It sounds so pompous to say, but like, I feel like I've loved, Photoshop from a very young age. My dad was a photographer. He's still around, but growing up, when he was my age, he was a photographer with like film cameras and stuff. He obviously got me into filmmaking just with the family, home camcorder. But I guess, the skill that I wish I developed earlier was business, and was the love that I have for business now. I think I obviously wouldn't trade anything for anything else. Like, I love the way my life is panned out, and I love, where I'm at. But I feel like if I had realized how important just business concepts were, even in high school. I think I would probably be at a different place now. That's really it. I think, yeah, business. My dad, thinking back now, my dad tried to get me into the business side of things when I was in high school. I tried and kind of successfully started a brand around playing cards and cardistry in high school, I guess early college. And I remember him saying, "What's your business plan?" And I was like, "I don't know, make cool stuff." But he's the one that sat me down and was like, "You need to have a business plan. What does it look like in 5 years, 10 years?" I had no idea what I was doing, but I sat down and just started typing on a Word doc. And I was like, "I don't know, this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah." Ultimately that business or that brand that I tried to start didn't end up, continuing, just because it was too stressful and I just didn't want to do it anymore. But if I had, realized how important business was earlier, then I would have a much tighter grip and understanding on not only my own personal finances, but also where I'm going and how to get there, I feel like, in a better way. But the other side of that is I'm a huge fan of like thinking on my feet and learning as I go. And that's honestly what keeps, making videos for over 15 years. That's what keeps it fun, is that I keep learning and I keep making mistakes and I keep, going back to the drawing board and messing with the blueprint of who I am and what I do on the internet. And yeah, I don't know. It's cool to learn about business as I go, as well as I'm sure, a lot of other people who want to start their own business realize, is that you learn the most by doing, and experience is the best teacher. So I'm just kind of leaning into that and allowing myself to surrender to the natural progression of how things are going. So if there's one answer though, it's business. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think it's the discrepancy between that is, it's tough for, I think, for a lot of people when they, especially for you growing up, like very early on, you got into filmmaking in that space. Your father was a really big impact on that. But I think for a lot of people at least, they explore their passion, or they go down what they're interested in. And then when they go to monetize it, they fall out of love with that thing.
Yeah.
So, how has your relationship kind of shifted over 15 years in this space, and now moving more towards the business aspect of things? Where's your relationship with creating changed?
Yeah. So that's an excellent question, because it is at the crux of being a creator now, is like, that's why everyone wants to do it, is because money, of course. Yeah. So, back in high school and back in college, when I was really going pretty heavily into cardistry and doing that kind of thing and building my channel there, it was mostly on Instagram is where the cardistry community is. But I sort of was the first cardist, I guess, to step it up to here in terms of like what cardistry content looks like. And for that really niche, really small community, it was micro influencing. And that term is so silly, but it became, brands and companies sending me their deck of cards. Because if you can believe it, there's a whole ecosystem and economy around custom decks of playing cards. They would send it to me because I had the filmmaking and, video creation expertise, and also a wider audience than most in the niche of cardistry. And, I didn't realize it in high school or college, but I was just doing the influencer thing. I was getting these cards, and a lot of times I would do it for free because I loved making these videos so much. I would just be like, yeah, sure, whatever, send me cards and I'll make a cool video. And like, there were awesome videos, and they're still awesome videos. But then I realized, I remember one day in college, this brand reached out and they're like, well, we want to send you our new deck. And they asked how much I would charge. And I was like, what? $100? And they're like, cool, I'll send you 6 decks. And what's your PayPal? And I was like, that's it? You're not going to. So then I was like, all right, I guess I can make money off of this kind of thing. The focus has always been, though, how can I make the coolest video with cards? I had this, felt like I had this like status to uphold of like, Sean's the video guy. Like, anyone can like set up an iPhone and like do a really cool cut with cards. And I'm by no means the best cardist, but I'll be darned if I'm not one of the better video creators. Like, it's always been like, how do I make the coolest content? Like with cards, I would do a lot of it for free just because I still love, I'm looking at a deck of cards right now because I love it so much. But, I guess in college is kind of when I started realizing that I can monetize, content, and I don't have to I guess this was before any sort of like short form platform offering like a revenue share like TikTok and the creator program. This was purely like a business comes to me and says, how much do you want to get on your page? And eventually I remember I've done cardistry videos for $1,500. And that was still like mind blowing to me, because I'm like, I'm going to make a 45-second video. It's going to be really well done and really well edited. I just can't believe that like I took the jump of like saying that number and they bit.
Yeah.
But now, you know, the barrier to entry to content creation is so low. Like it is so easy to be a creator. In fact, I think a majority of creators today that create for short form platforms are just doing it on their iPhone. And I think those are the guys that do it best, is because that's exactly what the creators of these platforms wanted. So everyone wants to get into it because they see all these iPhone people like making these amazing, like crazy informative and awesome videos with their phones, and everyone knows they have a phone. So everyone wants to get into it because they also know of the potential upside for brand deals and brand alignment and a lot of money. That kind of leads me to, you know, how I view money now. And I think my niche and the niche that I'm in, self-development, is kind of a special one, because I think a lot of creators that are in it are also going through a very similar journey that I am, which is like their own reconciliation with emotions and their own journey with self-development and productivity and mindfulness. So it feels weird. Like, I think if you're in the productivity and self-development space and you're only trying to get money, then you're doing not only your audience, but yourself a disservice. I think there's other niches and other worlds of content creation where money and profitability is much more viable and much more probably quick. But I think in the niche of really like psychological development, it's such a difficult thing to like try to only do a system that makes money. And I think there's smart ways and smart people that have gone about it in really good ways. Ali Abdaal and Matt D'Avella are like my two top, like they do productivity and mindfulness videos great. And I think they make a lot of money off of it for the right reasons. And when I say the right reasons, I mean, I get the sense, and I'm sure, I would hope it's true for them, it's coming from a very authentic place. And I think it has to with mindfulness and self-development. So like this course that I'm building, it's all stuff that I've gone through, and it's all values that I align with. Like, gun to my head, I will subscribe to these concepts and these principles until my last breath. And it has to be like that. Like it can't be like a quick money grab just because I know I can make $10,000 overnight. Like it cannot come from that. If it was any other industry or any other, you know, niche, I guess you could view money in a very different way. But because you're dealing with like the bane of everyone's existence, which is like, how do I be better? You know, it feels slimy to like put a price on that from an inauthentic place. I think knowledge is a valuable thing. And I think very specific knowledge from a very specific person is an even more valuable thing. So I think that's why I can put a price tag on it. But it has to, the knowledge and the information has to really hold its own ground. It has to hold water, and it has to really affect people in a deep way. It cannot be shallow, and it can't be, it can't be the umbrella statements that I was making at the beginning of my TikTok journey. Like, it has to be very specific and very targeted, I suppose. Does that make it? Does that make any sense? I feel like I kind of was all over the place. Yeah.
No, it makes a whole lot of sense. I live by I don't remember who said this quote, but I kind of live through like quotes. Like, that's how I take perspectives and concepts in life. And one of my favorites is that, you know, you will get what you want in life by helping enough other people get what they want in life.
Yes.
And if you're giving so much to people every single day you're posting, I think in a mindset shift that was really, really big for me when I started coaching with people and asking for money, it was like, I've had a little resistance to that as well. And I assume the same thing for you with the course, but there's a different perspective to take when you think the investment in yourself is the accountability. It's nothing more than the accountability. Of course, we'd like to get monetary gain from it, but in the same sense, if you didn't invest into it and you gave a free product out, people wouldn't take it as serious, and just simply raising the price, they'll have a different perspective on it. With the course, is there any concepts or any habits or anything that you can share from it that would have a pretty big impact? Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot. Have you read the book Atomic Habits? Yeah.
Right,
so a lot.
Me,
yeah. I mean, it's, you know, there's a reason it's the Bible for self-development and productivity. Right. A lot of the concepts are based off of ideas from that book. Specifically, the course is about digital mindfulness with your phone, because the phone is this or it's this shackle that we wear every single day willingly. But it also has like these really nefarious implications. Obviously, it's not for social media; it's for making you a valuable consumer. Like that's all it is. So a lot of it is awareness, and a lot of it is just kind of bringing to light these systems and the way that like these apps are designed to keep you locked in. It's the course revolves around a specific system that I've devised over the last 6 months with my business partner. But I think the biggest part of the course, and I think this is a huge part of Atomic Habits too, is making the habit of, I guess, using your phone, making it undesirable and making it ugly and unsatisfying. And we go through a number of ways to do that. But I think just in general, that concept of making a habit that you want to kick unsatisfying, like that is for sure one of the fastest ways to break it. And again, everything takes time, and it's impossible to think that, by implementing my system or any other system, Atomic Habits or whatever, implementing it for one day is going to change your life. That's not true. So a lot of this is a kind of a slow growth journey. And a lot of it is systems and I guess mind frames and frameworks that you can start implementing into your life as soon as you grab your phone. So I can share like a word that we came up with for, that feeling of when you grab your phone, when your friend goes to the bathroom, or when you're waiting for your food or something. The reason the feeling and that action of grabbing your phone is a temptation. It's a temptation to see, the internet, and what it is you're addicted and you need that hit of dopamine or whatever it is. So we've kind of come up with a couple other terms that are like these branded, really memorable and really sticky ideas that hopefully when you go through the course, if anything sticks with you, it's those ideas. There's like these kind of Post-it notes that we leave that stick in my mind, at least. Maybe it's because I'm making the course, but the hope is after you're done with the course, you'll have these rocks and these, things that you can hold on to that you remember from not only the system or the course, but also just me saying them. And like, even now when I pick up my phone, I'm like, the one word in my head is taptation. Like that is a taptation. So there's a number of other things like that. And then, along with the course, we're planning on bundling in a 30-day mindfulness challenge. So you get it'll probably be about 3 or 4 hours of like really deep informational deep dives on like the psychology of companies and phones and whatever. But also after you're done with that, now you can use all of the information and systems you've learned in that informational section you can implement that into this 30-day digital mindfulness challenge, where every single day it gets a little bit harder to use your phone. So on day 1, it'll be like, turn your phone off for an hour. And by day 30, it's like, like put your phone under your bed in a box and don't look at it for another month. Exaggeration, but it's stuff like that. So yeah, I guess that's a little preview. We're still very much in like the building phase. We've been outlining the course now for like 2 months, which seems like a long time, but we're trying to be super granular and super detailed about how we disperse this information. And again, it goes back to, how do we do it in an authentic way? Because anybody can make a course, and anybody can look up online like 7 ways to get off your phone. And anybody can put a price tag on that and say, this is $140, you get 3 hours of information, do it. But if you don't believe in that product, and if you're doing it just for money and like a quick exit of like a couple thousand, maybe, you're doing it for the wrong reason. So the reason I would rather this course take 1.5 years to come out than for me to put out a product that I don't fully believe in and that doesn't have the impact that I want it to. I'd rather do it right than do it kind of okay. So, yeah, we're just taking our time with it, and where there's no, solid due date on it. We're just excited to put it out when we do.
Yeah, man, I'm in a similar position as you when it comes to that. I just came out with a free course on like just helping people become more consistent, and it was a free course, and I still took like a month to release it, because I was like, I want I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozy is. I assume he's really big. My free shit's better than their paid shit. I took that kind of perspective on it. It was like, how can I provide so much value to people that they're like blown away by how much value I'm providing? And the same thing for you, taking a lot of time with it, with just time off of your phone and being more mindful. Like, what I'm curious for you, like, what does mindfulness in itself, what does that mean to you?
I'm still figuring that out. I think it changes every single day, but I think mindfulness for me feels like the complete absence of stress and the complete, like a completely aware and present feeling. I don't know. It's weird to say that out loud because I feel like I haven't felt that. Ironically, again, I feel like I haven't felt that for a long time. But mindfulness for me is like a complete awareness of who I am and what I want to do really in the world. I feel like I know I'm pretty familiar, as I think most people are. I'm pretty familiar with what the opposite of mindfulness feels like. And it's this feeling of like, I mean, what it is dread, right? It's like this completely like you're feeling like you're missing out on stuff. You feel like you're acutely aware of like how bad it feels to scroll through your phone for hours at night, but for some reason you can't stop it. Like it's, and that's exactly, sound like such a tinfoil hat, but like that's exactly what they want, you know, like that's the whole point. But I think mindfulness is this constantly moving target for me and probably for a lot of people because it's so hard to put into words and it's so hard to articulate that feeling of peace. I guess peace is a good word to kind of sum up what mindfulness feels like. I feel like I felt peace when I've like gone on retreats with like friends or family or, you know, whatever else where like I can't be on my phone. Like either there's no service or my phone is off. I feel peaceful when I'm traveling. I travel a lot and I make it a point to sit on a plane and not do anything, like not even listen to music or watch a movie, at least for like half an hour, just because what other opportunity do you do that? Also, planes are crazy, you know, so like take that in for a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. Mindfulness is such a ambiguous thing that I'm having a lot of fun trying to figure out how to capture and also help people achieve as well. And because it is different for everyone. And I think if I can help you, if I can nudge you in the right direction to at least being a little bit more aware that peace and mindfulness is such a hard thing to come by, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah, it's the awareness is the key part of it because awareness begets awareness. Like we can't change anything if we're not aware of the cycle that we're continuously put in. And like you said, it's what the social media apps want. They want us to stay exactly in the same loop because it gets them in a better position. But
correct,
really, I mean, especially for creators, especially like this is what we do, and it's really difficult to detach from that.
Yeah.
Through detaching yourself. And I'm curious, especially for you, for over 800,000 followers, and you've just been at this for a while. Like, how have you been able to detach your self-worth from the results that you get from social media?
I haven't. I haven't detached that. And it sucks. I think a lot of creators, I would say probably all, I would hope, you know, have such a personal attachment to their metrics. And again, that like fully is the toxicity of social media. And, you know, it's only exponentialized by being a creator. Yeah. Cause you're perpetuating this cycle, not only for like your followers, but also for yourself. Especially, you know, I think again, productivity and mindfulness is such a unique niche because it deals so much with, it's like so personal to the creator. And for me, it's very difficult to detach my self-worth from how I'm performing online. I'll give you a great example. My Instagram, I've been blessed by the algorithm for the last 6 months or so, that I've just been highly favored and highly prioritized on the explore page. My organic reach has been out of this world, which I'm, you know, obviously thankful to the algorithm gods for that. But in the last 2 weeks, I think it's almost exactly 2 weeks ago, it feels like my account just hit like a brick wall. And now I have no organic reach and I'm losing followers every day. I used to, I can't, you know, it feels weird saying used to because this is 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was averaging at least 5,000 followers a day. And, you know, I'm very thankful for that, obviously, but then something happened where I haven't changed anything about my processes, or how I upload or whatever, but now I lose 500 followers a day. And I realize that it's not because like I'm not getting canceled. You know, there's nothing I can do to like be canceled really, you know? No. It's just the upside, the other side of the teeter totter isn't there. You know, like I naturally 1,600 people unfollow me every single day, but that's offset by the thousands of people that do follow me. So just by not having that upside of people following me, I'm noticing a lot more. Like, it's just much more apparent how many, followers I'm losing. That's a really trite thing to say, I feel like, out loud, but again, it is the crux and the bane of a creator's existence. Like, it feels like if you're not growing, you're dying. And because so much of me and so much of my heart and soul is in my videos, it's like, I was telling my girlfriend Lexi the other day as I was having a breakdown, it feels like a direct attack on me. I know it's not, and it's just, these are the motions of social media and the internet. But my silly little ape brain is thinking, oh, because I'm losing followers, I'm a bad person. Obviously not the case. I'm aware of that. But again, so much of my humanness is in my videos, and that's a great thing, because I think there are a lot of videos and a lot of creators lack that. But the detrimental side of that is that I feel personally attacked when the algorithm doesn't favor me, and it sucks. I think that just like completely leans into the irony of like what I do. Is like I'm so about productivity and mindfulness and get off your phone, but I can't stop looking at how many followers I'm losing every single day. And it's just this tragic, I feel like such a clown, like it's such a tragic cycle of like creator versus the algorithm, and like the creator as the algorithm as the, what has created me. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't completely detached. It goes in waves. I can recognize kind of what I just described to you in terms of like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's not a personal attack on me, but other days it's so tough to post, to know that like, I'm not going to see the numbers that I was 2 weeks ago. And, this will all probably change, because this is how social media works. Like, this happened 10 times on TikTok, and I felt the same exact thing. But now I feel it much more, because Instagram is such a community-based platform, whereas TikTok is kind of meant for you to scroll by a bunch of random people. I feel like I've got a responsibility to these people, to my followers, which again is such a pompous thing to say, but I feel like so much more connected to this community that I've built, and it sucks that it's not growing. So it's kind of this peak and valley, kind of feeling, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us as creators, high achievers, I think we can like identify as too. I've been really thinking about this concept of like surrendering versus striving. Like, we're always striving to make more videos. When I have a free minute, like before this, I recorded 3 solo episodes. I'm like, there's in every opportunity I can, I'm going to do something in that capacity. And
I'm sorry.
And moving forward. Yeah, no, it's fine. Because I think the striving is like this is where most people struggle to achieve their goals, because they're striving. And when they strive, they identify themselves as a person that's like always on the cusp of achieving their goal.
Right.
And when you surrender to where you are, you surrender to like how everything's going to pan out. Like you said, with TikTok happened multiple times. You just surrender to knowing that change is right around the corner. Like how is that? Are there any habits for you that have been just like foundational for you that really allow you to step back from that and detach?
Yeah, I mean, I think what brings me the most comfort, when I'm, having these intense emotional reactions to like hemorrhaging followers every day, is the realization that I'm not new to this, and I have literally 365 days of experience, of continuous experience of this kind of thing. Which I'm very thankful for. I'm glad I put myself through the trenches of posting every day on TikTok, because that was like truly, I'm so thankful I'm out of that now, but I'm also thankful for the experience that it gave me in terms of like just being able to reconcile with the ebbing and flowing of the internet. It's, unless you're Justin Bieber in an industry plant, like your metrics aren't going to be skyrocketing every day. And it's completely natural to not gain as many followers as you did yesterday, or to lose followers. Like, you can't expect the entire internet to bend over backwards for you as a creator, even though that's obviously what everyone wants. And that's what I want more than anything, but you have to, surrender is a great word. And I think that's what I've been doing. And I suppose that's the answer, is like, I've been surrendering to just kind of like allowing myself to float on my back as the ocean of the internet, and as Instagram just kind of tosses me around. Like, I can swim because I've been through this for my entire life, basically. It's those moments where, a wave will crash over me and I'll start to lose my breath, where I'm like panicking. But for the most part, yeah, it's just realizing that it's completely natural to just allow yourself to surrender to, whatever the algorithm wants you to do. And what's important is showing up every day. And what's important for me, I guess, to stay with the analogy, is to not get out of that body of water, is to stay there, to stay afloat. That's really all you can do as a creator. Yeah.
1000%. When we focus on the expectation, or what do we think it's going to be, and this is in any aspect of life, when we're looking for goals, when we're expecting something to happen, everything falls apart, because it's never always going to happen exactly as we want. For me, like my idea of what success looks like is like my standards. Like if I'm doing what I said I was going to do, posting every single day, I'm winning. It doesn't matter what the metrics look like. And that's still hard to detach from. But I know that you were since you were 3 years old, started martial arts with your mom, and now you're running a studio and doing some insane things in that regard. What has being in martial arts taught you about yourself, about life, and how has that translated into what you do today and just how you live life today?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So, little background. My mom started this art called, she didn't start it. She started training in this art called Subak Do, which is a Korean martial art. It's very similar to Taekwondo. They're both Korean. Subak Do just kind of places more emphasis on the philosophy side as opposed to Taekwondo, being more of a sport and being more for physical activity. Not one is better than the other. Like they're both, they got their merits and stuff. My mom started in the 80s. She was born in Hawaii, and she found a studio there in the 80s. And she's just been a part of it for her whole life. She ended up in Portland, Oregon in the 90s. And after a hiatus from the martial arts, she got back into it. Coincidentally with the same instructor that she found on Hawaii. Like they separated, and then they both found each other back in Camas, Washington, which is just across the river from Portland. So yeah, I've grown up in this art. I remember what it was like I barely remember like being out of uniform and just going with my mom because, that my dad was working or whatever. I had to, be with my mom. And then I remember her asking me like if I wanted to start, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I've been here for years already. Like, let's just do it, I guess. I probably said it in less words because I was 3, but, right. I don't always forget this, but when I look back at my life and when I think about why I've stuck with so many things and why I like to think I've become fairly proficient at most of these things, it's because of the martial art. And it's because I was raised, and I am still being raised in this like insanely regimented and disciplined art. That's how I think most martial arts are, but at least Subak Do is like very disciplined. It's a martial art. Like it's based on military principles and protocol. And it doesn't feel like I'm in the army when I'm training, but like it was, the martial art that I do is the way it is as it stands because American soldiers came back from the Korean War where they learned this art and started studios here. So it's very based in seniority and protocol and, specific processes. And it has completely just changed I have no idea what it's like to not do martial arts and to not lead a disciplined lifestyle. My mom, there's obviously a bunch of tenets that the martial art teaches you, but one of my favorites that my mom always instilled in me is finish what you start. And that's honestly why I haven't left my 9-to-5 job. It's because it feels like I'm quitting, which like doesn't feel good. Like that doesn't align with me. I'm thankful enough that I can do the 9-to-5 job and this in a pretty okay and balanced, way. But yeah, Subak Do has just completely given me this foundational backbone that informs itself and informs me in everything I do. It allows me to approach new things with an open mind and an open heart, and allows me to work through challenges in a way that I know that there's a solution, and to not stop until there's a solution. But then I'm so thankful for it because it's given me this mental fortitude that allows me to get through the struggles of losing 500 followers a day and realizing that I'm not, I'm stagnating. Like it allows me to reconcile with that in a way that's healthy, in a way that is non-destructive, in a way that is more solution focused rather than, all the bad things happening. So yeah, it is a complete like disciplinary backbone. And I think if there's one word to sum it up, it's discipline. And the more and more I make these videos, the more and more I realize not everyone starts martial arts when they're 3, and not everyone has the discipline, to be as productive or as mindful as they want. And I don't that sounds again pompous and like I'm coming off as like I'm better than you, but I'm not. I just happen to have disciplinary frameworks in my head that allow me to process information in different ways. And if I can help others, reach this point where I feel fairly satisfied that I can, and confident that I can do most things to a proficient level because of this discipline. If I can help people get there, then that's like a complete win for me. I think everyone needs discipline in their life. So I think that's definitely a big informer of my content and my videos for sure.
100%. And that's exactly why I ask it, because I think most of what we want in life comes from doing the things that we don't want to do in the moment in life. And so that like reflects immensely. And through content creation, through filmmaking, through martial arts, through so many different areas, I'm curious for you, what lesson has taken you the longest to learn?
That's an awesome question, dude. You're really good at this.
Thank you.
The lesson that I think I keep coming back to is like growth takes time, and it's not so much about how fast or how fast you can grow, but how long you can subject yourself to failing so much to the point where you no longer fail. Like Subakdo is it's a life art. Like I'm going to be doing it until I die. And there is a cap to it. Like there's only, you can only go so high in the ranks. I'm nowhere near like the top rank, but I'm pretty darn far in it. And, the length between evaluations to like test to get to the next rank only gets longer. Like, so I'm a part of the master rank. Like once you get to 4th degree black belt, we don't use black, but black belt for sake, lack of a better term. Once you get to 4th degree, you're considered a master. And then you have to wait the amount of years as the rank you're going for. So it was actually, sorry, I'm explaining this really badly. When you become a black belt, you have to wait the amount of years to test. So like you become a 1st degree black belt, you have to wait 2 years. Then you got to wait 3 years to become the 3rd degree. And then to test for 4th degree, you would have to normally wait 4 years, but you also have to be 21. And because I started so early, I was a 3rd degree black belt for I think 8 years. And I was learning this, I was doing the same, material and teaching the same stuff, whereas a lot of the adults that I was training with just moved on, which is fine. But I had to develop this like insane amount of patience and I guess resilience to like wait around. And then when you test for 4th degree, which is master, everything above 4th is master. Once you test for that, the evaluations shift from like a day thing to an 8-day long kind of retreat, where you typically travel to a place in the US. It's usually like a hotel with conference rooms, and you lock yourself into these rooms and like train for 8 days straight. And then the 8th day is like the evaluation where you kind of, not perform, but you show like what you show your improvement. And the test isn't so much that final day of evaluation. It's the 8 days of 16-hour days of training and note taking and physical exercise. Like that is the test of endurance. So yeah, I guess if there's one thing that I've learned through not only content creation, but I think mostly Subakdo and the martial art, is that like you have to suffer. Like you the only way, like it's totally true. Like pressure makes diamonds. And I'm not saying that I'm a diamond yet, or that maybe I'll ever be, but I think I've learned how to deal with pressure super well. Not only from martial arts and testing, like last November is when I did this most recent test for my 5th degree. And it was the most emotionally and physically taxing thing that I've done. 8 days straight of living in a uniform and going to sleep in a really horrible hotel bed. Jeez. And then performing well on the last day. And then, the year of posting on TikTok, like that's all, everything I do is like endurance based. And I don't even think like I'm kind of coming to this realization now. Endurance based things are what separates the good from the great. Like if you can suffer, and if you can willingly put yourself through hard situations, there's no way you don't emerge successful. And then if you can do that, if you can like really suck at something and endure through that, and then be successful, and then allow yourself to suck at something again over and over and over, that is like the answer to getting good at stuff, and allowing yourself and looking forward to that suffering. Suffering is a really, sometimes it's not suffering. Sometimes it's a lot of fun, and sometimes it's a lot of learning. But for the most part, just being willing to endure the hardships of anything, not content creation, not martial arts, just anything, being willing to not give up on that is the biggest lesson that I've learned.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like suffering, and then it's like sacrifice too. Cause we suffer almost every day through our phones, like to some capacity, but
Exactly.
it's like, it's the mindset success requires sacrifice, and you do that for a long enough period of time. I think Simon Sinek talks about it a little bit, where you have to play infinite games. It's like you got into filmmaking, you enjoyed it before you even started monetizing it. That's how you were able to continue down the road for so long. And I think for a lot of people, they're trying to get into it from a place of, I'm trying to get a monetary gain from this. I want to change my life, but not first coming into the perspective of, what is this actually doing for me? What is this doing for other people? And it's the business mindset, right? It's like, how can I solve a problem for someone else? Because so many people are struggling with this. And other than you, man, I really don't see many people talking too much about how impactful our phones are in this world. It's like, it's become so normalized. I remember a time where I went out to dinner with my family, grandmother, grandfather, mom, sister. I was the only person not on my phone. And it was just like, I'm the youngest person there, and I'm the only one like just conscious enough, I think, to separate myself. And I think the consciousness aspect of it is a really important part.
Totally. Yeah, I agree, man.
So there's one last question I ask every single guest, and it kind of encapsulates what I try to do with this podcast. And the question is, what belief are you currently unlearning?
What belief are you unlearning? God, I wish I had time to, all these questions are like crazy.
Sorry.
No. I love it. This is freaking awesome. The belief that I'm unlearning is that, I don't know, previously I growing up and idolizing these YouTubers and creators, like, I suppose there's been a part of me every time I look at, these creators that I look up to, that there's a part of me that believes that it's impossible, and like they got lucky, and that they, leveraged a particular moment in time or had money or something to get to where they are. And I've just kind of surrendered, in some senses of the word, to being a consumer of content. But just the mere act of me being curious about a subject and having the interest of, how to shoot and how to edit has allowed me to start to unlearn that, like, man, it's not really reaching to think that you want to be a creator with a wide audience. Like, it's not impossible. So I guess what I'm unlearning is that, everyone had to start somewhere. Like the great Mr. Beast, maybe a bad example, but Mr. Beast was once just a dorky kid who didn't have any friends, that just wanted to like make silly videos and do ridiculous things. And now he is the poster child for YouTube. And, good thing or bad thing, he's made quite an impact on the landscape of not only YouTube, but just media, not even content, like media in general.
Production.
And it's easy to look at those gargantuan figures like Mr. Beast or whoever else, like, man, I could never do that. And when I was starting TikTok, I was looking at my friends that were like changing their life. And like, I've got a friend that has 16 million followers, and like, that's a lot. And like, I can't even fathom 1 million. And back then I was like, man, I can't do, like, I can't allow myself to be subjected to that kind of thing. But then the other thought that I had right after that kind of spurred me on this whole journey was like, but what if I did? Like, what if I tried it? Like, let's just see what happens. Let's approach it from a really, informed perspective of like, I'm good enough at filmmaking and editing, and I can tell stories kinda. Let's just kind of allow myself to surrender to this process, and let's challenge myself to do it every single day. And, through that suffering and through that endurance, I guess, things just kind of fell into place. And I honestly lost myself in that process. Not lost myself in a bad way, but I lost sight of like, I have to get to this point. And I allowed myself to open up and be like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. I'm helping a lot of people. I'm helping myself. Let's just go. Let's just do it. And like, let's just fall in love with the process of making a video. And when I did that, not only did it get easier to make the videos, but it also really lit up a little part inside of me that was, it is my inner child that was like looking up to these YouTubers and creators that was like, man, I can't do that. And as soon as I allowed myself to surrender to that process, I started doing it. And I started just being able to do the thing that I once thought was impossible. I remember looking at people on Instagram, even 9 months ago. I remember going on Instagram and like, if I saw someone had 100,000 followers, I was like, that's crazy. I can't do that, especially right now in the state of Instagram. Instagram sucks. Like, you know, there's no way you can grow a page. And now with 800,000, which I'm very blessed and very thankful for, it's like I'm at this point that I once looked at as impossible to get to. So I suppose if there's one thing to take away from this is that everything that you think that you can't do, you can. And that might be my blanket statement roots, but like that's the truth of it is, you know, like everyone had to start from somewhere. And, you know, the other side of that too is like, once you get to that place that you thought was impossible, you're still going to think there's places that you can't get to, you know, are impossible. Like I don't think 2 million is possible, but I know that in a year and a half, I'll be at 2 million. I'll think 5 million is possible. So there's always, you're never going to lose that feeling of impossibility, but the only way to reconcile with it is to try it out and to do your best and to show up every single day. I would say that's, I can't actually remember what the question was, but I think that's a lesson that I've really valued over the last, you know, 2 years of doing this every day.
No, I love it because the question was what belief are you currently in learning? And I think throughout your journey, it was the belief that it's just not possible. I mean, like You've seen so many people do it, but to some capacity, it still seems just insurmountable. And it's you literally is like it's a great advertisement for what I'm trying to do with this podcast is like you can too was a reinforced same belief for me throughout just growing up in general. I've seen so many people doing insane things, but I was like, well, what did they have that I didn't have? And can I use my circumstances as an excuse to not be able to achieve that thing? And so grateful, grateful for that answer. I think a lot of people are going to get a whole lot of value from this podcast, man. Your links will be in the show notes, but where can they find you, Sean?
Yeah, Instagram's the best place. I get so many messages every day, which obviously I'm very thankful for, and I feel very blessed. But a lot of people message me like, "Oh, you're probably not going to see this, but blah blah blah." I'm always on my phone. Ironically, remember, I'm a walking contradiction. So, yeah, send me. I would love it if people sent me a message just letting me know. You know, what they think of my content or what ideas that they have or things that they struggle with or things that I could possibly help with. So Instagram is probably the best place to find me.